the motion is to get staff to make a submission to see whether we don't want to spend the money before we find out whether we got it.
And we can bring it back if we do get past the first step when they look for a final.
Yep.
We can come back if we're looking to get past the first step.
Okay, all in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. And we are going to go through some of this budget binder, really not today. So I'm going to take 10 minutes for a little stretch. We'll call this back to order. And we'll be going through this page by page. Now, where are we at now that we've made those changes?
We'll let you know later.
We all got the yellow pages.
Yep. The yellow pages are just a straight update of the capital as it was approved at our.
If you go to section 4 of your binder and take all the white pages that were in there out, and put the yellow pages in section 4, just the full set.
So I take one off, put another in.
Yeah.
Just for comparison.
Council has approved those in the yellow pages.
I will give you my old draft.
I put mine on my old set. Cheryl has this.
I'm keeping my
You
old set
recycle.
for comparison. We don't recycle it, we shred it.
You shred it. That's
It's forward back.
okay.
Okay, if we want to go to the summary under section 1.
Maybe just tip that microphone closer to Janet when she's talking. Maybe it'll help.
Where are we going? Sorry, Dan. That's okay. Okay, I'm in 1.
Item 1, there's operating budget overview is listed on the front page. We've made a few changes to this now.
We have made some changes. Basically, where we're at right now is there's a 7.7% increase on the levy.
Which?
7.7%.
Okay.
This first draft was at 7%. However, I do have to clarify one item. When we approved the grants at the last meeting, what was in the budget and what was approved, there was a $6,800 shortfall. So was the council's intent to find that somewhere else or just add $6,800 to the grant line? So that, we'll have to clarify that. But right now I've incorporated any of the changes, the dredging that was approved. We also accounted for an additional grant for the Grand Bend area for that dredging. We also, the $5,000 for the additional for the Phragmites and the additional for the signs just discussed tonight, and the $5,000 for the solid waste education.
What about the contract with Charlie Miller? Was that?
That was the $60,000
That was
for
60. Okay.
the dredging.
Yep.
And I offset the Grand Bend side with $15,000 for grant revenue.
Grant revenue from.
So that we would get it.
Okay.
So that's all incorporated in that 7.7% levy increase.
So that's what we're at currently as of today?
Yes, that equates to a 3.95% tax rate increase.
Over
the
every-
current ratios.
3.95.
95
Over last year,
tax rate.
tax rate.
And then we add M-Tax on top of that?
No, that's incorporated.
Deputy Mayor Day.
Yes, Janet, just to remove the confusion, there was a discussion with the train construction expense of $209,000, and it's an in and out expense, as I was told. Can we just eliminate that, just go back to the old accounting method that we had in and out as well, and just save the confusion and reduce the tax rate by that amount as well?
It doesn't affect the tax rate because it's a $200,000 revenue increase as well as a $200,000 expense increase. So if we take that out, we're at a 2.85% expense increase over last year's expense.
Okay, which helps to clear everything. We should go back to that 2.85. And so, does council support that? Just removing that so we go back to the, and
For-
eliminating that confusion.
I can do
because-
that for comparison purposes.
Yeah,
For, as far as reporting wise, I have to leave it where it is for reporting purposes,
It's
but
gotta
I
be in there
have
for
to
the auditor.
communicate it this way, but.
you can communicate it this way, even in the paperwork that we have, just so that the public sees it in that
Right.
state. Okay, thank you.
So we're
Councilor
talking,
Underwood.
yeah, so we're talking about the drains, the stuff that was moved from one column over to another by the province.
Out of
Next.
capital into the.
So when that comes out, now we're at 2.85 from last, I know eventually it's gonna have to go there. All right,
Council has asked for a 2% increase and we're at 2.85 right now.
Correct.
Actually, pardon me, please, clarification. There was 2% over last year's spending,
Spending.
as opposed to 2%, we're not looking for a 2% tax increase.
Right, no.
2% increase over last year's spending.
And right now we're at 2.85% over last year's
last year's
expenses.
spending,
Correct.
which translates,
Actually,
I'm getting confused.
yeah,
Yeah, it is very confusing.
Yes,
because if it was 2% over last year's rate, it should be $9.1 million and some change, as opposed to $9.6 million. So I know that obviously we have this phased-in assessment increase, and so we actually would be doing a negative if we kept it at precisely 2% over last year's, the basic levy itself. But we do have to, yeah, it's far higher.
The confusing part is really that there's been a decrease in revenues, user fee revenues as well.
Yes,
So that's where the offset will come from taxation. So that's where that shift happens and why the percentages don't align like you think they should. So, for example, in planning, we had some reductions.
I'm sorry, what was that?
In, example would be in planning, we had some reduction in revenues, just to be more realistic with averages over the last few years. I mean,
I know, but for example, that planning, yes, we had that reduction, but then the expenses seem to increase significantly. So it doesn't really quite make sense. There's a couple of places, building, yes, the revenues are significantly reduced, but the expenses are increased, which they should be reflective of each other. If less work is being done in those areas, and so there's less revenue, there should be a reduced expense as well.
not
So-
necessarily, it's the timing of permits and stuff like that too. Especially building and planning, we may expect a lot to come in, but we do have set costs for other administration costs.
But it all kind of averages out over the years. It may not happen at the right time, like within this 12-month period, but
There's
it
some-
kind of all averages out one way or another. So it didn't really make sense, when you look at the numbers. So I wasn't comfortable with the number of those final figures. I mean, going off track a bit, but it's something we'll be looking at in a minute here, obviously. Mhm.
okay.
So I guess if I could, so bottom line, it is, this 2.85 is an increase, no, sorry,
This year's expenses over last year's expenses.
With the drain component.
and then there's the extra user fee reductions that cause problems, okay. I see.
So to get it to our 2%, we have to reduce our operating budget by,
What do you
Either
have?
reduce expenses or increase revenues.
Okay.
how many dollars?
Over 90,000.
90?
$90,000.
To take 0.85 off.
We'd have known that it was gonna get mild and take all that ice out. That 100,000 wouldn't have been spent.
Actually, it wouldn't have gone out, that's the problem.
So the bigger problem next year.
All right, that's,
But it is flowing nicely right now.
that's water under the bridge.
No, it's water under the.
Anyway, so where do we go through here? What's council's wishes? We added some things today again, and
We
that's
did,
in there.
So the summary would be updated slightly from what you see here. However, if you want to move right to the detailed information, I mean, that's what makes up your summary.
Right.
So, in the first section is policing. And the information is there, and Scott and Jensen can spoke to with regards to the budget. The difference here and what he had maybe discussed is we always account for a reconciliation credit as well as a POA credit to the county.